So did you guys all dream in one to many?
No, just one too many.
One too many.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's great. What I'd like to do this morning is we're going to kind of get going. I'd like to spend kind of the first little bit just doing a light review, and then mostly today our goal is to be action-oriented, okay? We're going to get you into the part section. We're going to get you making invoices and quotes. We're going to get you in making expense receipts and deposits and POs and all this kind of fun stuff. We're going to be jumping around and actually using a number of the core pieces. Does anybody have any questions before we begin? Or anything that they like from yesterday that you're like, what about this or that? Anything? Great. Okay, for our review, who would like to kind of tell us what we talked about yesterday? Something that you remember, could be from any part of the day, but let's just kind of get the review, let's get the juices kind of flowing again, all right? Great, Ethan.
This whole system is a zipper that combines accounting and operations and makes them live and searchable at all times.
Perfect. That is correct. That's a perfect explanation of Atlas. That is great. It's exactly what we're doing. Well done, sir.
I just read it from the site.
Oh, okay.
He's cheating.
That's awesome. Okay, who else has an idea of something that they learned yesterday, or let's kind of just get the juices flowing so we can kind of get back into it. Great, can I call on you?
Yeah, let's see. Well, just at the, I'm trying to think now. Just that the system is, like I said, dynamic, and it's everything, like I said, is connected. So if you apply something in one place, it affects the whole system, and it's really simple.
We could virtually say
Right.
cause and effect.
Right.
So it's a cause and effect
Right.
system.
You don't have multiple entry things. You put it in one place, you can find it throughout the system.
Okay, great. Cause and effect is great. It could be positive or negative, but basically
Yeah, something is negative.
it's not a standalone, you just do something and it just exists.
Right.
You do something and it then has consequences.
All done.
It's starting to affect things, or you're actually connecting things like you want them to do. So
Right.
that's perfect. That's great. Sherry O, can we call on you? Just something that from yesterday, we're just trying to get some juices flowing. She didn't use her SpongeBob this morning. She was looking for some cartoons.
Shoot, golly.
Everybody be thinking, because I'm going to probably ask you as well. So.
We did touch base on how to assign permissions and such on our look and feel of our homepage and what our capabilities will be.
Okay.
And we can adjust those accordingly to help people work in the system.
Awesome. And so we barely touched on that. We will be using a lot of permissions today, okay? Because we're going to try to standardize it. The assignment yesterday was just assign some permissions and see what it does to your page, okay? Just so you can see that it's actually dynamically building. Perfect. Very good.
I'm going to do this
Cheryl.
so that somebody else doesn't take mine before. Okay, so it's
That sounds political.
That's right, dynamic and something that is real time, where we know exactly where we are at that moment.
Okay, perfect. It is real time. And the only way that you can do real time is having a thing called centralized data. If you have data here, and it can't all be centralized, you're kind of lost, okay? Like, there are certain pieces that might be real time, but if you centralize the data and then you're able to disseminate it from there, that is what gives you real time. Settings, permissions, real-time data, that's Atlas. Awesome. Okay, Chris, let's go ahead and call on you.
It was all new yesterday, yeah.
You said all new?
All new, yeah. Everything was
Okay,
new and bright and shiny, yeah.
great.
Yeah.
A little bit of a paradigm shift in a way?
Yeah, well, kind of been looking for it for a while, hoping somebody come up with it for a while, so it's exciting to see.
Awesome. I would love to say that Atlas is the best thing ever. Can somebody grab me one of those little, Sherry, right behind you, those little slots of fabric? I just want to show you something real quick. Okay, we said that this was kind of like a timeline. The reason that I did it with multiple different layers and structures and different things like this. Well, what we've done is we said, hey, we can create this new model where we can run objects and data over time. Well, guess what? How many businesses are there out in the world? And how many of them are a little bit different, okay? Little teeny tweaks. So what we did is we're like, wow, we are not a niche thing where we're like, oh, we just do car dealerships. We just do trailer dealerships. What we did is we took a wide swath and we kind of said, we can generally cover these things. And most businesses, we could probably cover 85% of exactly what they need out of the box. However, there is no physical possible way that we could cover everything. So I wanted to kind of create that analogy, but as far as being new, there's tons of options, not only for us, but also for future expansion and other people who are interested in this, even this whole market type thing. But it's pretty cool, it's good stuff. Alrighty, let's switch for just a second. Who have I not called on? Steve.
Permissions and settings.
Permissions and settings. That's a pretty big core, huh? That's that foundation. The more you look at it, the more you're like, oh, I see how you can tweak that. So just this morning, Steve and I were actually talking on our way in here, and we were talking about some things that we're going to be implementing soon, dealing with e-commerce type stuff. And we were talking about how we could technically have these settings and permissions that basically say, do we allow this? Is your company ready for it? And basically some neat things like that. And so there will be some new settings and new permissions coming for e-commerce based stuff. And e-commerce is amazing. Is it reservations, dealing with time? Is it products? Is it services? Is it bill pay? Is it just signing up for a new plan? There's tons of different things you can do for e-commerce. It's not just selling widget A and widget B. There's some neat things that are going to be coming, and that's kind of potentially. We were even talking about like rolling into some of these stages like March, like a couple weeks, I think. So anyway, that's where we're headed, and we've got some neat things going in that direction. Any other comments on that, Steve?
I think the permissions and settings are something that, if people really focus on that, then they'll, from the inside out, learn the system.
Okay.
Because like when you go to the permissions page or the corp-wide settings page, there's all of the description of what that permission or setting does, and by reading that, then you get a little bit more of an idea of exactly what we're trying to do with that piece of the puzzle.
Okay, awesome. They are pieces of the puzzle, and we're going to put them all together, and that's actually how we make this thing custom. Just like I showed you right here, if you take a business and say this is just an industry, each line is an industry, and you can have all sorts of different things. Say you have retail and services and plumbing and car dealerships and ecclesiastical and restaurant, and there are so many niches. But what you do is, depending on your settings and your permissions, you can technically tweak this thing to kind of serve a lot of those different pieces. What I want to say is we at Adilas have taken a very wide swath through this new environment, okay? It is not niche specific for any particular company, but we have it set up so that it's dynamically able to do that thing. If you need more, heck, contact the developer. You might be able to get the little niche piece that you need for $500,000 type thing. Like, it's not like, oh wow, I have to pay millions of dollars for this custom system. You just add it on to what already exists. So that would be really cool. That's some future development that we're going to be doing. Great. Who have I not called on? Wayne.
Well, I think that you guys have the whole elephant. I really do. I'm not a business person, so I don't know the whole model, but I think you have the entire elephant, and you need to teach people how to take it a bite at a time. And I think your analogy of the body, the human body, is the one that you ought to go with, because everybody can relate to the body. And there are like 10 major systems in the body. So you have about 12 major things, you can kind of relate that. And you go all the way down to the cellular level, or we go even below that when we get to the biochemistry of what really goes on inside of a cell. So, I think you ought to keep that analogy going, because everybody can relate to the body and say, your body is your business.
Your body is your business. Can you tell that young man is a science guy? But in fact, I think it was just the other day we were talking, like, from here to here, we were talking, one body has 2 arms. And if we go smaller, we said one arm has how many joints type thing, okay? And within those joints, how many bones do we have? There's 2 bones right here. I don't even know how many's in your hand, but like, it's amazing how it just keeps growing. It's a one-to-many relationship, but it all works in combination, and you can even do stuff like this, right? No, I'm just kidding. That's a blast from the past there.
Can you still moonwalk?
Sure, of course I can. Of course I can. Okay, here, I gotta write it down now. Who else have we not called on? David, David.
Nothing really with me, but it just made me realize how far we have came putting all the pieces together. And that it would just really help a lot of people out there. And all to save them a lot of money.
Awesome, awesome. It will save them a lot of money. And there's some really neat things that are going to be coming on. I wish it was all done. It's not. It might be still years before we're done. Matter of fact, I would hate to put this sort of timeline on it, but what if it was never done? And
I don't think you'll ever
How
be
can it
done.
be done if it's dynamic? It can't.
That's right.
okay, great.
It should never be done. We should
Yeah.
never get to the point.
That's
where
right, the
we
living,
say,
there's always new technologies you guys are gonna go, wow.
Yeah.
This is gonna take us to a new level, and we can implement it within 6 months. We're not,
Yeah.
this ship that can't, we can just, everything's, I just think that's the point, is this is never gonna be done.
Yep.
Yeah.
It'll constantly be living and dynamic.
Awesome.
And that's the reason you keep it on the web instead of produce something. Because the minute you produce something, by the time you do it, it's obsolete in some area.
That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. I've lived that battle already. Like, I created a product, and I physically, the first run we did of this product, we made 5,000. I still have probably 2,000 of the original 5,000 in my garage.
Mhm.
And guess what? I want to update it, but I'm like, oh crap, I've got 2,000 of these things. But because it is living and dynamic, it can live and go forward.
By the way, Ethan wants one.
Okay. I now have 1,099. No, that's great. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. Any other questions or comments to kind of get these juices flowing?
I've got one more that last night I was thinking about, just from an operations standpoint, I always felt like my accounting kidnapped my business. I was
Okay.
always serving the accounting side of my business. And what I love about this is you've explained, and I now see how operation leads.
It's got to.
It gets to lead, and with T accounting, it doesn't let you lead. You're always a slave to it somehow. You're always waiting. And this just takes it back, and you get to, operation gets to lead, and that's a big deal to business owners.
It is a big deal. Can I say a comment, and it may be offensive to some people, but basically what happens is earlier this morning, before we were doing this, and somewhat political, we were talking about taking away some control. If you take an accountant and you say, guess what? We're going to have 50 million people piling in data, and then you're just going to kind of stamp it and approve it and let it pass on, in a way you kind of take away their power unless they're okay with that, okay? You can, if I was an accountant and say we had this gap scenario, operations, gap, accounting, okay? Operations are running. Guess what? Eventually it has to come over here, and this creates a new little bottleneck and or a power source, okay? Owners don't really know 100% what's going on unless it gets disseminated through. I'm not saying that, please don't take it that way. I'm not saying accounting is wrong. We are actually trying to say, heck, let's work together. We're all on a team. If you want to talk about a body, there's a scripture, and if you're not a scripture person, then don't close your ears, but it says, how can the head say to the foot, I don't need you, okay? You can't. If we had no feet, what would happen? Okay, if we had no head, what would happen? Like, you have to have all of these pieces. How would you like to walk around like this? It'd be really hard to type. I'm teasing you, but like, you have to have all of these pieces. But if one thing thinks it's the most important and it tries to control, it actually creates a bottleneck. I currently am one of the bottlenecks of Adilas. If I'm one of the primary developers, guess what we do? Check out these new ideas, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't have all this time. So we're going to get more developers. We're going to have more people helping us out because we need to do that. And I actually have to let go of some of that power. And so I do feel like what they feel like in some ways. But it's scary. It's like, well, I don't want everybody in here. And so like, If you have a system that you can set up with permissions and settings, you can say to what level can you play, and that'll help. That'll really help. So that's where some things are going. We have not asked Shannon yet. Shannon, good morning.
Covered it in all of your comments though. I was going to say it's so adaptable. You can play at any level you want someone else to play. And it can be so flexible and it can be whatever you need and it can serve so many different companies and different types of customers and different, it's so adaptable. It's I think a really strong.
Well, I was just thinking when she was saying this, it really serves the company as it grows. Because as a small company, you would want this type of a package that you could afford, or production package. But as your company grows, almost always the company has to go back and buy something new now to fit where they are. But you don't have to here. You start here, and it just grows with you.
Correct. How many of you guys still have your map? Do you guys still have your little map thing?
Do you have another one?
I do. I've got tons.
Uh-oh.
Who needs a
I
map
left
still?
mine on my desk and somebody picked it up. Oh, no.
Sherry, you need one?
No, Sir David took mine.
Okay. Anybody else need one?
He was looking out for you?
Yes, keep my notes.
So what I wanted to show you was the top left-hand corner right there. Can somebody read the top little thing right there? Cheryl. No. A location provides.
Oh,
Top
the
left.
location provides a base for a scalable model.
For a scalable model. And then what is it? What does it keep saying after that?
At least one location is required.
And then below
But
that?
if more are needed, no problem, the entire model scales with you.
So it actually shows. And so you were saying this can grow with your business with no additional fees. You know what we do for multiple locations? We basically say, this is just a scenario, don't quote me on these numbers, okay? But say you have somebody that's $97 a month. $97 a month per location. Now I have 2 locations. Now I have 3 locations. And they're at the scalable model. That's not per user. That's not per transaction. That's per location. And then if we need to, we even have some companies. We have a company right now that has 30 some odd locations. They pay a base fee, and then it's $40 per location after that. And they're smaller, they're not super huge, but it's scalable. And we alter it and do it according to your needs and your company. That's huge. We'll let it scale. And more tools will be developed to help on those huge levels of scale. As we're talking about scale, Sherry,
Sir.
you said that often you would have to create a new account and you'd have to create a huge stack of like all these chart of accounts for the new corporation type thing.
Absolutely.
Inside of Adilas, guess what you do? You don't create new chart of accounts. You just say expense receipt, guess what? You're now assigned to a location, which automatically creates a subcategory for that thing without making a whole lot of things. If you guys have ever seen chart of accounts, who knows what I'm even talking about when I say chart of accounts? Okay? Literally, this, you have pages and pages and pages and pages and pages. And if you have something, say you have something like this, petty cash. It has a certain number, and then to do locations, often you would go like this, certain number -001, certain number -002, certain number, and say you had 30 of those. You're talking pages and pages and pages. What we do in Adilas, and this is very important, is we go like this, petty cash, where do you want to assign it? Like, you could have unlimited, but guess what? You have one petty cash, and then you subdivide it by location. That's how it scales. One, not every single one duplicated with a -002 or whatever on it. It changes the whole ball game. Here's the other piece that we do. Instead of actually trying to remember that number, was that 5,000? Was it whatever it was? You read it. Petty cash. Okay? So the computer behind the scene has to remember the ID number, okay? It remembers some random number. It doesn't even matter. It could be in the millions, thousands, or whatever. It takes that number and it's recording that number. We're going to actually be talking about this a ton. This is the key ID for the pieces that we store in the database. You know how we say main? The main, PO number 17. 17 is its key ID. What we do is that what it allows us to do, and we were asking this about corporations yesterday, a corporation gets an ID number. Say it's 350. Well, the name of it Because that's no longer used to tie it in together, it allows you to change it. So if we're going back to the chart of accounts thing, say it has a number. Let's just say it's 15. Behind the scenes, you never ever even see this, okay? And then you get to call it petty cash. You get to call it utilities. You get to call it whatever. If something changes and you want to tweak it, guess what? You just tweak what it's called, and all the things that it's already assigned to, it's already fully updated because it's done on the ID number. Okay? Does that make sense? It's huge. It's huge. You no longer have to do pages and pages and pages and pages of chart of accounts. And imagine trying to look through that, trying to do your thing. You'd say, hey, that was utilities, that was web hosting, that was internet, that was that type of thing. It makes it so much easier. And then what we do is we actually provide levels of stacking. So instead of just naming the thing, we say, how would you like to categorize this? And so then it virtually kind of creates its own little cascading system. So as we pull a report, you could say, would I like the small version, the medium, the large, or the full? And so basically, because it's already fully categorized, your report, we can customize your report, and it automatically falls right into line with what we're doing. We'll get more into that, okay?